Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to another Wolfram Language Design Review for version 14.3. We are actually coming towards the end of our 14.3 design reviews. So then it's on to the next version and other things we've often been working on for years. All right, so we're talking here about visualization, and how much of this have we already looked at?
We looked at some of this in a preliminary form a couple months ago. Uh, a lot of it has to do with, or most of it is the modeling side of the visualization side of modeling.
Okay, so list fit plot is
So
something.
the mission there is to show both data and fit.
Yep.
And
But then we
then
got to be able to get the fit out, as I said the last time we looked at this. Right? How do you get the fit out?
from the plot.
Probably not from the plot, but I mean it's got to be.
But so this calls on our existing fit functions, which will give you everything you want from a computational point of view.
Is this really the right design that we have a list fit plot as opposed to list plot of a fit object?
We have both in a way. We aren't doing list plot of a fitted object.
I think we should tag this function as experimental.
That's fine.
Sure.
I
Okay.
think we're going to want to have something a little different in the future, probably.
But okay, so let me just then enumerate. There's sort of three groups of functions here. So there are two of these functions that are sort of dedicated to show both data and fit, and different ways of showing quality. So you can see that in the
Yeah.
illustration to the right there.
But I don't understand why I want a function that gives me a random line. I mean, okay, here's a case that I might want it, right? I have a bunch of points and they look roughly linear by eye. And I have many times in my life taken out a piece of paper and held it against up to my screen to see whether the points are in line. Okay. This clearly improves on that. But a wiggly curve, I don't know why I care. Unless I know what the curve is, why do I care that these points are mostly on a wiggly curve?
Because it's a question of insightfulness. If you have a cluster, of points that are roughly around a curve, seeing the curve sort of snaps to, and it gives you insight of trends.
Okay,
Whereas
so the other
if you
argument
interpolate
would,
them, you're just going to see something that's just very wild and
right. So
wiggly.
the other argument that you have is there's a bunch of points, they're mostly on top of each other, and this is showing you what the average of those points is, which is hard to deduce from the points themselves.
Kind of, yes. And also, let me just enumerate there's three groups of functions. So this
Mhm.
one is sort of both points and the fit, as well as quality measures that you can, by default, you just show the curve, but you can add in more
Well, I'm
things.
sorry, what's this down here in red? This says list line plot here. That's obviously wrong.
Yes, that's
Um,
wrong. That's a copy paste. Obviously wrong.
yes.
Okay. But the other group of functions are the data plot functions. So list plot 3, list line plot, list plot 3D, and so on. There, you could specify that you want a fit rather than interpolation. Because when you have noisy data, often you
Yeah.
want the fit rather than the interpolation. Okay, so that's a direct replacement basically for
When
showing.
no, it's not a list line plot is in some sense a piecewise linear interpolation.
Yeah, but you could have higher order interpolation too.
Yes, you can.
Okay, and in many cases, particularly when you have noisy data, what you want is sort of a fit rather than the interpolation. And it's not what it runs with stock at all. It's no change from what it has been, but you can override it. Um, and the third thing is for when we have things like plot and plot 3D, if they get these around objects, so you get an around of a sort of a function of x, comma, sigma of x,
Yeah.
then it will plot those confidence bands. It'll show you the uncertainty in that plot. So those are the three groups. There's dedicated fit plots. There's our legacy data plots, which have additional functionality. It's our legacy function plots, which have additional functionality.
What the heck? That's
What the
not a
heck? What?
straight line.
Well, you can specify. If you know the model, you can specify it. Okay. So if you say one of the options there is to specify that. Okay. What is it, Brett?
Plot fit goes to linear.
Yeah. If you say plot fit goes to string linear, you will get a linear fit. That's an option. Now you get a line.
How do I tell what that line is?
You ask linear model fit.
Yeah, you ask linear model fit.
What about having a mouse over here that at least shows what the fit is? Because we know it.
I guess.
I mean, if I mouse to this line, and I also don't, I mean, maybe you could put a label on here. Okay, so now let me do the same thing. Linear model fit is going to give me garbage, isn't it?
No.
It's going to give me a pile of garbage.
No, but the specification
that,
is a little.
X, X.
Yeah.
What is it?
You need list X,
X.
Well, maybe not list. Okay, X, X then.
X, X.
Yep.
Okay. How do I get the fit out?
Well, you see it there, but it's one of the properties.
It's the best fit property.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think we really want a mouse over here.
I mean, there is one, but we could not do that.
No. I mean that we want to. I wonder how we can do that so that it has a either an indicator that you can go to that point to get the fit or something. It's not obvious that this is bad to have the thing where you're trailing along the line. You see what I'm saying? But somehow you want to be able to get in this picture, you want to be able to see what is that fit. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, maybe a call out.
Is something.
You mean a call out, actually put a call out on there?
Yeah.
It's a lot of space.
Yeah, I mean, if there was a way of indicating the end of the line here with some iconography that indicates go to the end of the line there, and then you can find out what the fit is, that would be perfectly acceptable as far as I'm concerned. See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, some kind of thing that has little tiny,
like an eye or something, like
a
ring of an eye information.
We don't want to mess up because you might want to print this plot.
Mm.
I'm wondering about a special legend setting.
Actually, I've got a better idea. Why not just give the fit along with the value here? Why not just expand this tooltip so that it has the fixed fit and then the actual value? See what I'm saying?
That's a possibility. I mean, presumably some limit on how big that is.
Big what is?
The fit.
Well, how big can that? Look,
well, the standard,
here,
the stock setting, there isn't much to show because it's
no,
not
there's
a
nothing
formula.
to show in the fit here.
Right.
This is not interesting. Right. But if you give linear, I mean, maybe by default, if you said linear, it should have a call out or a legend of some kind.
We can play with some ideas there, I think.
I mean, it
either
could
the
be
legend or the including it in that dynamic.
I think a legend is actually not a bad idea. And you can always set plot legend to none if you don't want it.
Exactly.
But if plot legend is automatic, I mean, because to me, I mean, I want to know roughly what this fit is. That's what's going to be useful to me. Probably. I mean, in some cases, I mean, this case here, I don't know whether this is useful.
It's very
I
useful.
mean, go down to the first basic example in the list fit plot docs page there.
All right, that's useful. All right, I admit that's useful. Okay, I admit that's useful. No autocomplete yet.
Not yet.
And you can have many elements. So you could have
Sure.
the data points too, if you want.
Yeah, what are they called?
Sorry?
Data
Well,
points. Well, I mean, the data points were there by default, but if you want the bands and the data points, then
yeah, I understand.
put it in a list and
What is it called? Data points?
yep.
What happens if I want broader? So there's no mouse over for the bands.
I mean, if you have mouse overs on everything, it gets
I don't care. I mean,
unpleasant.
we need something on the bands to know what the hell they are. Or we should put a little tiny legend here that says, X%. See what I'm saying?
Maybe we do something special for the mouse overs when there are bands. So we display, plus minus, for instance.
That's possible, but what are these bands, in fact?
Those are 95%, I believe.
Okay, so why aren't we putting a thing that says, somehow 95% on them?
But
Go ahead.
I don't think it's 95%, are they? For the mean, I think it's the wrong.
Um,
I think it's not the data, it's the means, which we shouldn't use.
No, this is not mean. This is sample. So this is 95% confidence level.
Of what?
Of the samples being in the bands, but I can see that it's not 95%.
Yeah, it's obviously not. Look at this. I mean, there's almost nothing in the band.
Right. So there's something off here. I don't know what the bug is. If you used the wrong property or the computed it wrong or what?
They may have computed the property wrong for local model fit.
Yeah, it's all, yeah.
Well, this isn't local model fit. This is a linear fit.
Yeah.
So local model fit is what's being used to generate the curve by default.
But I asked for a linear.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, never mind.
Now that looks right.
That looks right.
This looks wrong.
Yeah, that
exactly.
That best fit around property is still being propagated, I think.
Yeah, then probably not. It's right. It was kind of very much in flux, so it may not be correct.
Okay, fine. So it isn't correct. But okay.
So another thing that you can show is residuals. What's the name for the residuals?
Residuals.
Residual, is it bars or is it just residuals?
Just residuals.
Lovely.
See?
Very faint in that case. But...
No, I think it's fine. I mean, they look good. How much smoothing is being done here?
So that's an automatic setting for local model fit, and you can control that too. If you really, I don't know if we provide control in this function yet, but you can definitely do it in local model fit, how much smoothing you want. That's a type
I would argue that this looks a bit silly, and there should be the higher default,
I think we're still working on that, in terms of what the automatic.
Yeah, I mean, to me, okay, I don't want to see a hand-drawn line.
What?
I don't want to see what looks like a hand-drawn line.
Oh.
He wants more smooth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I just think that
I think that this is something that we, but that's something we.
Is there a smooth parameter I can set here?
Yeah,
Can we set it here?
For plot fit, you can try,
I'm sorry, what?
For plot fit option, you can try automatic and then give it a association with bandwidth key and try.
I'm sorry, what are you telling me to do? Just tell me what to type.
Yep.
In
Plot
here.
fit. Plot
Yeah.
fit.
Mm-hmm.
And
Goes to what?
Goes to list, automatic, comma, association.
Okay.
Bandwidth string.
Bandwidth.
I know.
Yep.
Okay.
And set it to some scale, I don't know, 10 something.
No, double it.
It's not working.
Is it properly being passed?
I think so, but maybe
Okay.
not.
So look, in my opinion, this should be a smooth curve. Just get the wiggles out of there. Let me give you a criterion, okay? At the very least, any wiggle should have a large number of data points supporting that wiggle.
I agree. I agree, Stephen. We just, we have to kind of revisit that
Fine. But that
automation.
criterion that I just gave you, I don't think is completely stupid. That is, if there was a whole gaggle of data points right here that wiggled up and wiggled down, I probably want to see the wiggle. But if the support for that wiggle is, 1/10 of that data point.
So what you effectively control is like you have a point and you say how far away or how many points do you want to include, and what is the weight? Like the nearby points you want to weight higher than the far away points.
Right. But if there are a lot of nearby points, you could, in other words, if I see a whole gaggle of points that make this glitch here, that make this be a step function, for example,
Right.
I want to see the step function. I don't want to see a smooth step function. But on the other hand, if there are very few points, so there's, very little information in that area, I just want to see a smooth curve.
I agree with you. So we have to return to that. It's like, I don't think that this team can discuss that reasonably.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, can you put that plot fit in a list? I think there's some ambiguity there. So that plot fit automatic.
What do you want me to do?
Yeah,
add an extra level of list around everything.
List.
Around everything.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's better.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So, this requires tuning. So it's still not right. I don't think any of these are right. They have too much small scale structure, right? So again, basically small scale structure must be supported by a large number of data points. Otherwise it shouldn't be there.
Yeah, for all I know, there's some stupid technical reason why it looks so wiggly right now, which I don't know.
Okay, fine, but it'll get fixed, right? So, and we should see it again before it ships. Okay. So, Sandra on our live stream is asking, wouldn't a raft for graphics be better? Like when you have a mesh region, you can click on it and get a raft with stuff in it.
Yeah.
It would be nice, yes. And we have things that we would want to put in there besides the model, of course.
Right.
So,
but we're not yet in a position to do this. Right?
We're not yet in a position. But
yeah,
we're getting closer, I think.
See, I'm a little concerned. We don't want to have too much wiggly, weird stuff. I think we should put the fit in this mouse over for now. That's probably not the final thing we want to do, but I don't think we want to have anything visible on the plot. Unless
I think what will happen is it will get put in for the simple fits, your linear quadratic things.
Yes, it's not going to get put in for this fit. It's completely stupid for this fit. Right, we don't want it for that fit. For this fit, and we need to design, Tim, that's for you, I think, of what this tooltip looks like. And it probably wants to have a double decker with a different color for where the fit is and so on. Also, obviously, don't have too many decimal digits in the fit, blah, blah, blah. You know the shtick.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. All right, so let's take a look here. So I assume that all the scaling function stuff all works correctly. What is this?
That's when you want to use That's the same for list line plot and stuff. That just describes all the positions where you can put labels and callouts.
Okay, but if you have a label, I want a way to label the fit, so to speak. There should be an easy way to label the fit. Do you see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying. I mean, because right, you want to label the points, you want to label the fit. And I think probably what I would do
Oh, for God's sake! Why?
is
I'm sorry. Why on earth is like strings and text list? This is silly. Okay, that's the
it's
thing
just
for
copied
documentation.
over.
Yeah. Okay, so it's just wrong and shouldn't be there, and that I think is a Natalia thing to chase down.
Yes.
Okay, so I mean, the displaying lists is fine. That's sort of relevant to this, but these other things are like, oh my gosh, why are they there?
Strings and text.
Yeah, it just
I
doesn't
mean,
make
that
any
probably means
sense.
it's there in like list line plot or something, and also equally
Yes,
weird.
I know it's wrong.
Yeah. No, I'm just
Okay,
but anyway,
fine.
so what I was going to say is that I'm thinking probably if you do the label around the whole data set,
Yeah,
it applies to the fitted curve. And if you put labels around individual points, then
it shouldn't
you
apply
know
to the whole. I mean, if you put it around, what does it do normally in list plot? If I say list plot of a labeled range of 10, comma fish,
something really unuseful.
not that unuseful. I mean,
I mean, it's not that unuseful, but
I mean, that would work great for list line plot, but list.
yeah.
I
mean,
guess it works anyways, because if you have multiple data sets that have different colors, so you can sort of tell, I
Exactly.
guess.
well, no. I mean, that's the thing is you can't. If you had like 3 point clouds in different colors,
Yeah,
each with a label, there's nothing attaching the label to a particular color in that case.
Hmm.
Well, except that it's on one of the data points.
Yes.
I mean, I don't think this is obviously stupid. And this has got to go on working, in my view. I mean, if in this case, it's got to work. But now the question is, where do you put? I mean, I think having a call out to this curve, you can't use label for this. You've got to have a call out to this curve that is a visible call out. So, I mean, you could call it something like, plot fit label arrow automatic, for example. Let's say you said plot fit label. And you always also want to label the actual fit, That's another thing, right? You might want to say this is the, linear interpolation, right? That will be a very common thing to want to do. So I think that's not a bad idea. And plot fit label arrow automatic would give, in the case where it is a
give
simple fit,
0.5x plus 0.5 plus
yeah, whatever it
2.7x or
is,
whatever.
right? And then in terms of, you can do a placed. Perhaps you can do something which gives the style of label in some way.
Right.
Do we also want to label the bands, or?
Maybe. I agree. You could make this into an association that gives more, more elements that you can label.
Yeah, or we could put the label into the element options.
You mean this one here?
I mean, I think
yeah, and that's
like
what...
this one being its own thing, but the bands maybe it's a element.
I mean, we could have a band curve
association.
labels or something in plot fit elements. You know what? That's not a bad idea. That we could have
I mean, can you bring up the docs for plot fit elements for a moment?
Yeah.
Because I think it may affect your thinking. So this is a thing where we have the string elements, and then you can address aspects of it via an association of parameters. So that last item in the
Yeah, I
first
see it.
table.
I see it.
And so I'm thinking that some of the label things for, like, say the bands
Could be in the parameters.
could be in the parameters.
But you could also have, as a courtesy, you could simply have a thing where you can throw into this list in the plot fit elements. You could say something like, you could say fit label, band label, band labels, fit labels, things like this.
Mm-hmm. Do you like that
Now,
better
also,
than?
wait a second. So
Sorry.
the one problem with this is, if you've got multiple data sets, you're going to have multiple fits. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Right.
And so what does it mean when you have a plot fit label? It's
I mean,
really
I think
more,
if you have multiple things, you aren't going to want to use one string for the same thing. I mean, the
no,
automatic
I
setting
know,
would make
I know.
sense.
But the automatic setting will make sense. But I mean, the other thing we could say is fit labeled. So in other words, just like we have labeled, one thing we could do, and this would then work even in list plot, is we could have a thing which is a wrapper. I mean, it's a different design from this whole design. Instead of having list fit plot, we could have a fit labeled or something around the data, which actually is a much more flexible design. Because that way you can fit one data set and not another data set. See what I'm saying?
You can.
And I think we can do
I
that
mean,
now with
it's
plot fit.
not
Yes,
as
we can.
flexible from a tabular viewpoint, perhaps. Or at least we have to get creative about where the wrapper goes, I guess. Which you would probably like anyway.
I mean, so we could have something that says, I mean, if we just had a thing called fitted of data, just like we can have labeled and fitted. And fitted of data says, stick a fit through there. I like that design. Now, I have to say,
I mean, there's a lot of
given this
change.
idea,
I mean, I'm all for making it all experimental and getting feedback, but we can't on this
Roger,
time
we
scale.
left it too late. We should have reviewed
Well,
this
that
earlier.
hasn't been ready to look at until
Yeah, I
now.
understand.
I'm just,
Well, I
it would,
understand, but I'm afraid it's not, I don't think it's the right design. But by the way, while we're at it, did we?
that's a very
Okay,
old option.
it's a very old option, and I'm wondering if we shouldn't have a wrapper, just like if we did fitted, we could have a wrapper called joined, and we could reuse that symbol because it's really basically obsolete in its previous form. Because no, wait a minute, it's not obsolete. We still use that for list plot range of 10 joined arrow true.
Yes.
Yes, okay. But in a perfect world, we might also imagine something that was joined like this. I mean, if we had fitted, labeled, fitted, joined, I don't think we can use joined as such, but uh Let's see. Sandra is commenting that plot fit could have a call out wrapper around, call out linear my fit. Possibly, yes. Rotten is commenting on the option symbols that apply only to one function. We try to avoid that. We try to have symbols that apply to more than one function. So we don't, and we like to have them all as symbols because we have a whole mechanism for dealing with that. Okay, so okay, I mean, so for example, I could imagine, in a fitted thing that would look pretty nice.
The thing is that there's a lot of changes coming or evolution coming to the fitting framework, as we talked about in those design reviews and other places, right? And I think that we cannot jump ahead of that here.
Yeah, well, so this function is really not going to, I mean, I don't think it's right.
Then we'll
I think it's lovely functionality. Oh boy. We could put it in WFR. I don't think it's right. I don't think the design is right. I think that the thing that we want to do,
I think you should look at the list plot and so on below too, and I think you should look at plot and so on below too. The
Okay.
data plots, okay, and the function plots.
Okay. All right. So this is using the plot fit option.
Correct.
Yes.
How
And
does
by
it apply
default,
to
it's
multiple codes? That was
default.
why you had me put another list bracket in that list in there, isn't it?
That's right.
Yeah, which kind of tells you that it's kind of a buggy design.
Yeah, I think it's a trade-off between what you were saying about inside out versus outside in. So
Yes. And okay, so all right, let's look at these. So I mean, like you're telling me that if I make this thing here, in fact, I could just make it the exact same thing, except that I would say list plot here.
Yeah, but you have to, the stock settings are different.
No, but why does plot fit? Is that just a current bug?
It's just prototype, not in docs, etc.
Okay, so we've got this functionality in plot fit.
But the stock settings are different. So I don't understand why it's showing the points.
Because this is list plot. If you did list line plot, you
A
wouldn't
list
get the
line plot, it
points.
wouldn't show the points because we
Right.
never show the points in list line plot. If you did a list
Right,
line plot,
except
I
list
understand,
line
Stephen.
plot, I understand, but if it's list line plot with mesh arrow automatic, is it?
All?
Well, I think it should be automatic because all is going to be where the hell are the points?
Is mesh even?
Yes, mesh normally works for list line plot.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, and
So this is a bug.
Yeah, here it makes sense.
It makes sense in this case too.
It's not really a mesh.
yeah, it's not. I mean, the mesh would be on that curve, on the fitted curve.
Yes, but it would be, I mean, mesh all could perfectly well be the original points. Personally, I think mesh automatic should be the original points. We got to have a way to show the points and the curve. How do we do that? What's the use?
Plot fit elements goes to data points.
No, I don't mean that. I mean, in this case here, rather than going the mesh all hack, how do I do it any other way?
that's list plot with join true.
Will it show the points?
I don't think it shows the points.
I think it just does the line instead of the points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we need something non-hacky that shows the points. Okay, now arguably, a joined wrapper inside list plot should join them but not remove the points. I don't think this should. I mean, well, okay, so list line plot is removing the points by default, but list plot should never remove the points, I think.
Right, and it's not.
It is. Look, there are no points there.
You're saying,
Yeah,
I
without
thought
the
you meant
plot
in the
fit.
fitting case.
Yeah.
So you're saying list plot generally should never remove
Well,
the points.
I think we crossed that bridge. We can't change that for the joined arrow true option. But if we had a joined wrapper of some kind, we could make that change. In other words, a joined wrapper would still show the points. By the way, the points here are too big, but it would still show the points while joining them.
But
Just
that,
like if we said fitted, it would show a fit as well as the points.
right. But the like Brett was saying, I think the plot fit option does that. So if you add a plot fit option to list plot, it'll show
Yeah,
the
but
points.
it's a big mess. It's a big mess. Big mess. I'm not interested in something where I've got to give a sub option and strings and God knows what else. I understand I can do that.
Mhm.
Except it isn't actually the same thing, right? Because if I say this, if I say plot fit arrow automatic, for example, and then I say plot fit elements, I mean, this is of course a mess right now. So here I've got that. Okay, that's perfectly reasonable. I think this is what we should have for this version, is this, and not have the
list plot fit.
So we have the options, but not the functions.
I think so. We got two functions. You've got list fit plot and list fit plot 3D, right?
The thinking there is that I think that the thinking to have those dedicated functions is that they're optimized for that use case. These guys can be made to fit that use case, but we haven't changed the legacy
but I don't
behavior.
think the design is right. I mean, I think that the simple
I mean, we're going to have to
case-
probably have discussions many rounds then in the next cycle.
Okay, look. The simple case of this is probably fine,
Mhm.
but the more complicated cases are really not. And we're going to end up with 3 ways to do this. Okay, you can use list plot with a plot fit option. Okay, you can use list plot with a fitted wrapper, or you can use list fit plot. Now, arguably, some parts of that bridge have already been crossed because we've got both list plot and list line plot. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
I mean, and we're going to have yet another way of doing this. Instead of fitted around the list of points, we'll have a fitted model there, which you can feed in to what?
So let's go to the function plots below. Scroll down. So we can take fitted model, in the future, but if you look where are the function plots? Scroll up,
scroll
up.
past them.
Yeah, up. There,
Yes,
stop.
function.
Okay, so the fact that they look at that, it gets an around mu of x, comma sigma of x, of one or several variables. And that will eventually be produced by more functions, not just the fitting functions. This is a type of describing uncertainty in the system that will eventually come out of multiple functions.
And are we going to support it in ND solve and things like that too?
Yeah, but it's a real project to do.
No, it's a big project. Yeah.
Right. That's what I've been saying all along. Right. But this is showing what the workflows can be, and there are more workflows that need to be addressed once we start doing this. But this is for visualization.
Yeah. All right. I mean, this is nice.
So one of the things that you can get out of fitted model today is exactly this stuff.
Which stuff?
The around, with the fit and the confidence bands.
Okay.
Okay. And that now, because up to now, if you get the band separately, now you have to figure out what color it is so it fits, and you have to do filling between them. It's a lot.
Sure. Okay, so let's zoom out for a second here. Okay. I'm beginning to recant and think that list first flip plot is probably okay. I mean, the problem is that there's so many other functions, but I guess we've done that with list line plot and list log plot.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think that for
There's a
the
limited
things,
number.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Is list
Exactly.
fit plot 3D other than a show off? Is it actually useful?
We think so. Okay. I think we're unique to
I
have
mean,
it.
the 2D is by far the more common.
Yes. And something that we should have had probably long
How
ago.
good is the 3D?
I think it's decent. One of the challenges was the dealing with the occlusion problem. And, so you can see here, this is a prototype that you see there, which has transparent
band
these
surface
band
and
surfaces. And then it has
supports.
these pillars, and the mesh sits on the band surfaces.
Yeah, okay.
And these pillars is kind of like in a glass house. They help give you the depth cueing that you need.
I get it. So here I can say I plus J.
What's happening?
It has the
Okay,
points at the moment. I don't think it has the surfaces
Oh
yet.
yeah, it doesn't do the surface by default, just as we don't do.
Right. So
So
I've got a comment here, which is that the fit should be much more transparent.
Probably. Yeah, you're probably right.
Can I change that right now? Is there a style for the fit? Yeah, how do I style the fit?
That would just be plot style, I think. In
Yeah,
this
just
case.
try it. Start with plot style.
How could plot style possibly work? Plot style is going to style the points.
No. List plot 3D doesn't show the points.
No, this is list fit plot 3D.
Right.
Right.
It does show the points. They're right there, Roger.
I know, but I'm just saying the analog with list plot 3D and list line plot is that plot style controls the surface and the curve.
No. Oh, you mean list plot? Yes, it will be list point plot.
Right, list point plot would do otherwise, yes.
Okay.
Right, but I think Stephen's point still stands that
Yeah, I agree with him.
Plot style opacity would affect the points.
Really?
No,
That would
I don't
surprise.
think
No,
so.
this is exactly what I would expect. It's
Yep.
sort of, it's basically like an alternative to list plot 3D. It doesn't use interpolation; it uses fitting.
Right, this is the thing. The fit plots, the fit comes first. It's the primary.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so it's what plot style affects.
Right.
So that's a linear fit.
Yep.
So now to put the whatchamajigs,
the plot fit elements, fit elements.
Right. And then put those stems. What are those stems? Residuals?
Yep.
The hell?
Take the lists out from around the linear.
Well,
you deleted the association, which changed the structure in a way that.
No, I don't think that should matter. Maybe it's just.
Or maybe it's just not doing the right
now did
linear.
some crazy thing with the points. The points went missing now, and the opacity applied to the residuals as well.
Yeah, it's a bug. It's a little buggy right now.
Okay? I mean, I think if we wanted to do list fit plot but not 3D, I'd be okay with that.
I think it's amusing to have the 3D as an experimental thing, but I mean,
I think I think it's interesting for us. I think it's also where we add new value.
Yeah, okay. But you got to bring down the opacity of both those things.
Yes.
Gotcha.
There's a bunch of tuning.
Yeah,
but come up with more comments because it's useful to us.
Yeah. Okay.
Observations. Let's see if you can put on the bands too. See, I don't know if this.
Yeah, this one is maybe lagging behind. You can try just bands as a string.
Yeah. Instead of residuals?
Yep.
Bands? Okay, it's not. Okay. No.
Yeah,
what's that?
Yeah, that's just
who knows?
very tight.
Who knows?
It's the same problem that we're seeing in the
linear
linear
It's not
fit.
finished yet, but
yeah.
But okay. Let's okay. So, by the way, so now what you're saying is if I say plot around x, square root of x,
Is not working right now, but it's the plan that you'll be able to get bands out of that, for example.
okay. I mean, there are clearly a bunch of settings about styling and so on, but the default is important. This we have to solve. This showing the points along the line and these things with, okay. I mean, I'm just wondering. I mean, all of these
So
synonymous
here's
things,
one possibility.
yeah.
So one thing that will work right now, but generates stuff that's too big, is plot markers goes to automatic. And the markers are big because when you have multiple, they're the different shapes, and those need to be distinguishable.
So here you're saying this one here, plot markers.
Use list plot and join, and well,
No,
maybe
no,
that
no.
works.
Plot markers are a what?
Automatic.
Okay,
And so those points are a little bit too big because those are the disc shape
I
as
understand.
opposed to the triangle or whatever. We could do something like plot markers goes to true.
Yes, that's not terrible. Interesting. I think plot markers goes to true might be reasonable. I mean, okay, let's just look at some of the other things here, and then we got to wrap
Yep.
for today.
The rest of it is small. This is the big, big workflow things.
So what uses a fitted model here? Plot can use a fitted model.
No, yeah,
No, I think
no.
some of these notes got copied over by accident from stuff above.
I see.
You can use, when you say plot
Yeah.
fit, and you can say string linear and automatic and all that, you could also use a fitted model. That meant that you ran something, a fitting function, and you used the output from that.
Support for tabular keys in geoplots.
Right. So when you give a tabular, you can say which columns is it that you want to plot.
Yes.
That was not supported for the geoplots because we didn't have geo support for in tabular.
I see. So if there's a column which has which has geopositions in it, you can now do this.
Right.
If it turns out that there's two columns, you have to transform them first to combine.
Then you need to do that
Correct.
outside of this function.
Yes.
Okay.
And then that's a
separate. We already reviewed time series, right?
No, but we're going to have a meeting about time series post these reviews.
But we're going to get time series into 14.3, right?
No, we're not.
Oh, shit. Are you
that would be a
serious?
disaster for our users if we destroyed their time series now.
So we failed in that. That was one of the critical things we were trying to get into this version.
If you like to characterize it that way, it's just a lot more than you think. But it's coming. But it's just not going to make it on this timeline. But we're going to have a whole dedicated meeting to that.
Yeah, I'm sure. I wish I'd known that had not worked. That's not good.
Mm-hmm.
Really not good. What's this?
That is the
separate
styling
meetings that we
tabulars.
have
It's
for
scheduled tomorrow.
Tabular aesthetics that we've had meetings on, right?
Yes.
In here, and we have another one tomorrow.
So this smooth date histogram is just generalizing smooth histogram to dates.
Yes.
Yes.
It's kind of like date histogram, but the smooth, a kernel version, basically.
No, I understand.
Right. I mean, I guess one
And
question
it tells
is,
you about clustering of dates, of events, basically.
Yeah, I would have much preferred to have time series.
Sorry?
I would have much preferred to have time series.
different set of people entirely.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. Well, We should make all these things experimental. Plot fit, list fit
I
plot.
think that's fine because we're going to have additional insights and functionality coming in the
Right.
next
But
version.
what we should plan on is these things like fitted and probably joined or something like joined. I think these wrappers have been quite successful.
The problem is it doesn't really work with modern data structures. It works with old lists, but it doesn't really properly work with, the more composite data containers and stuff that we have.
Well, those have to be outside in type ways of working.
Right. I'm just saying
although I'm not completely sure you're right about that, because I think, it's a question of if you're saying list fit plot of a tabular arrow, column 1 or something, which presumably works, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then I suspect that we could perfectly well do this and be happy people.
Possibly. I mean, that could probably be made to work relatively easily. I think you might also want tabular goes to joined of column 1.
Yes, that's also possible. I'm not sure which way out it should be.
I think it's the XY case that gets tricky.
Well, I
I
mean,
see.
right. I mean, and that's the reason that I think that is that you can say things like tabular goes to a 2x2, an n/2 matrix of columns to say use this, XY, use that XY, etc., etc. And then you want the wrappers per, if you want the wrappers per data set, it goes around the stuff on the right-hand side of the rule.
Sorry. Say that again. You say that you want this to be an XY. You say tab arrow.
So like list,
like this. If I say,
and now if you had multiple of those even,
yeah, I
you can have
understand.
a whole list down the
X1,
right.
Y1, X2, Y2.
Yeah, okay, so fine. So the joining would wrap around this then.
Mm-hmm.
So you could say something like here, we could say joined of XY, comma,
Fitted of
times.
AB or something.
Yeah. It's pretty nice, I think.
I mean, the way I look at it is this XY here is really a row. So each point in a list plot is a row in a tabular. So it kind of feels strange to have a wrapper span 2 columns.
No, they
it's not a
specify
row.
columns, not rows. They specify
I mean, basically,
columns.
the XY specifies a data set.
Yeah.
I mean, lowercase d, capital, lowercase s.
I like this approach. I think this is going to be quite, and we can have a more general wrapper here. It's a little weird having, list fit plot, plot fit arrow, fitted, fitted model. It's a little weird. I mean, the other
I mean,
argument,
it's possible that, list fit plot, the fitting, becomes a second argument. The linear aspect of it, at least, say.
yes. Does it have a second argument?
It
No.
does not currently.
Yeah, well, that would be a room for expansion, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, we're very cautious with using arguments because they always block future extensions.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so look, we really want for the linear case, and I assume we're going to have some other cases, though perhaps not for this version.
Right. And that's what I say is that part of the discussion and design work coming into this next release.
Okay, I mean, to be honest, the number of these things that I use routinely, it's like I want a linear fit, I want a logarithmic fit, or a power law fit. I mean, those are the, I want an exponential fit, I want a power law fit.
But that's what we're going to curate in that part of our project.
I understand. I'm just saying that the number of those fits that I find myself using routine is not terribly large. By the time my fit is to a fourth degree polynomial, it's probably nonsense.
Right. And on the right-hand side of plot fits, besides linear, I think we're accepting like quadratic and cubic, and that's as far as the polynomial ones go. And then,
Yeah, but now what happens if I have scaling function now log? Then does the fit happen on the original data? Because the case that I would find really useful is, I mean, the log linear and the log linear. In other words, log being a power law fit, log being an exponential fit.
Yeah, we're still working through that.
Okay. I mean, there's also
that is a good part of the experimental tag for
Yes.
these things.
Yeah, okay. Well, all right, okay. I mean, this is nice functionality. Don't forget to get some kind of tooltip for this case.
Yep.
And I also
the
think
linear ones
that,
and, yeah.
I mean, it's very clear that this is an immensely simplified workflow and make things accessible. But I do think there will be comments and insights from people using it that will be very helpful in evolving it.
Yeah.
Maybe something that even surprises us.
Well, I will tell you that for me, using things like this, the most immediate thing that I would comment on is I don't want the fitting line to be as dramatic as it is here. In other words, I want, if you go look at cases where I've had fitted lines in stuff I've done, right?
Mhm.
I'm sure you can find some of those.
I think that
Right.
there can be different opinions about that.
Yeah, it depends on whether the fit is the most important thing or the data is the most
Exactly.
important. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. So I mean that's what we should support is 2 standard cases for that.
Probably.
Or maybe 3 where the data and the fit of the, I mean, having the colors be the same for the data and the fit line is, is planning for having multiple, data sets.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's experimental.
Yeah. But I think it will be seriously useful.
No, it will be useful. It will be useful. We just need to not think that we're going to kind of have this, what am I saying? Have it, yeah, anyway, that we're not going to burn it in, that this design will change.
Mhm.
Yep.
And next version, it will definitely be different. All right. Let's wrap it up here. We've got another design review coming up in at 1:30.
Right.
Okay.
So I'll see some of you there.
Okay.
Talk to you later.
Thanks.
See you.
Bye, guys.